Hi, and welcome back to the Real You Project. I hope you're enjoying this series of these talks. We've done one, two, three, and this is the fourth talk. We're going to head it around what do you value? And this is really like, say, completing all what we've talked about before. One of the things that I really have found a massive help for me and where I've sort of like been going in all of my journey would be discovery was that I didn't really know that I had values. It's one thing sort of knowing if I have a value, um, and that can be a worth. So we talked about that in talk three about kind of what it is that you do and what value you can bring to this world and to others. And then you've also sort of got these drivers within you, your values in your system, in your character. I believe it shapes our character is your core values. Some it can be called core beliefs as well, but I think sort of values is a nice sort of way to explain it. And these are the things we talked about in talk one, where I described you having a skeleton, and it's something that we actually sort of stand on. I believe that if you've got a family and you're part of a family, then I think it's really helpful if you set some values. I think sort of you can still have the uniqueness that we talked about, but I think sort of like if you decide to have a core value as a family that you will sit down and have tea together, and you set that as something that is set as this is who we are. This is the character of us as a family. Then I think that's great. I think we do need to have some things that we actually stand on. That we decide that these are the things that I'm not giving up at all cost. So we're going to talk about core values, and I'm going to sort of show you how you actually sort of get through them. So on your workbook, you've got a list of words there. So it could have adventure, authenticity, freedom, which is an interesting one. I've just picked that on because it's one of my wife's, Laura's, one of hers is freedom. She's struggling in lockdown with that at the moment. So fun, generosity. Now, obviously, when you sort of read those sort of things, you kind of think, well, I identify with all of those. And, that's kind of me. I want to have significance. I like things to have simplicity. But there'll be stuff in there that you will actually quite happily discard over something else. And it's important for us to actually sort of narrow this list down, so that we actually really get to know how and who we are. So what I'm going to ask you to do is this is going to take a little bit of a while. So obviously you've got these here, there, the list of words. What I would say is look at those, challenge yourself, write them down, get a pen and paper. But you've got a list of four columns. The easiest way to sort of go around this, and this is I've done this and it's worked incredibly well for a long time. You don't have to do it this way, but this is the way that I found it easier to do. And that is that I would, out of each column, you would choose 5 words that you really have to choose above the others. And so that you will end up with 20 words out of here, I think there's over 90. So we want to sort of restrict that, get that back to the 20. And if there's something in one of the other columns that you need 6 out of instead of 5, then all right, choose 4 out of one and 6 out of the other. But as long as you understand sort of where I'm going with this, I want you to sort of try and find out of those, I want you to try and get 20. And I want you to write those down. So if you've got a piece of paper, write them down on the main part of it, whatever sort of size you want to, and choose those. So how you would do that, you might sort of look at it and say, well, I've got creativity over credibility. I've got decisiveness over discipline. You've got to sort of get to say, well, could I do without being disciplined because I prefer to be more decisive? And we have to get to a point where when you challenge each word, you've got to go, well, no, that definitely stays. It has to stay. So try and do that. Try and get down to your 20. And once you've done that, then come back, pick this video back up, and we'll carry on to the further. So just do that, stop there, press pause, and then come back. So once you've done your 20, what I want you to do now is to maybe turn over your page, or certainly sort of separate those sort of 20, and then, well, you don't have to, but I just find it easy that you write those 20, out of those 20, I want you to get 6. I want you to narrow that down to 6. So you've got to then start saying, well, okay, above this word, so tolerance, if you've got that down next to provider, you've got to start challenge yourself. Out of your 20, I want you to get down to 6. So again, pause the video, go and have a few minutes, get yourself a coffee again, and just spend some time. Now, Laura, my wife, she spent a lot of time. She spent sort of a week or two sort of like, going down this next sort of road, and then spending some time actually challenging, are they true or not, and maybe going back to it and sort of discarding one for another. But what I want you to try and do over, 5-10 minutes, we normally do this in, like I say, in the classroom, sort of when we're doing it, and we talk with each other and we kind of extrapolate this. So we really sort of get down to our 6. These 6 at the end, they can change because of your mood and different things. But what I found is that I don't really like to, I've chosen my 6, and I've chosen to sort of try and do life by them, because I know that they really intrinsically make me the most comfortable about myself. They give me purpose. So it becomes part of my life plan. So when we talked about in question 1 in the last session, who you are, this has become who I am. And I'm quite happy with the ones that I've chosen. And it's interesting. I was part of something a little while back, and it was really weird because all of these sort of core values were challenged at some point in about a 4 to 6 month sort of time. And when I came out of it, I kind of looked back at those, and I just thought, well, no wonder this was difficult for me, because all of my core values were being challenged. So if this is helpful to you, I'm going to try and sort of put some language to this. So what I want you to do in your workbook, again, you're going to have 6 of them. I want you to write down your 6. And next to each word, I want you to sort of try and give some form of language to what those words mean to you. They need to be specific to you, and why did you choose them. So for me, I've got unity, passion, persistence, spirit, respect, and awareness. And so when any of those sort of things are not quite, again, aligned for how I am, I know that inside of me, I get what I call, and if you've heard me speak about this before, and I can only language it this way, so I haven't found a better way of doing it, but when you get a little bit irked, and you're like, something just doesn't feel right, like I say, Laura's got one of freedom at the moment, and she just like, something doesn't feel right for her, as in being in a sense of lockdown. So obviously going out for something like a run and things like that are really important for her. Her business has been sort of dog sitting and stuff, so, and that business is gone. So that kind of gave her purpose, but it also gave her a freedom of expression. She's great with them. It also sort of gave her value and worth and some monetary sort of side of that, which is gone. So the freedom of then to be able to sort of like, buy the things that she kind of likes and things that mean a lot to her. So freedom is just one of hers, but I'm just trying to explain that you need to put language towards what these are, because you can get, and if you don't know them and you get irked, you just kind of get a little bit lost. So I've got sort of down here unity. Unity is incredibly important for how I've run the business for as many years as I have, and I love it when you can sort of like get people together with the same, it becomes the same sort of tribe with the same mission and vision. There's something quite wonderful about sort of seeing people and things unified. I have no idea why the world order kind of like is like that, but I believe that it's incredibly difficult, I think, to do things totally on your own. So unity for me is massive. Passion. So I look for unity, and I start to sort of word and language that. So unity for me would be, let's say, like in work and things that I do. I just look for how and why does that sit comfortably with me, and when it doesn't, when things aren't unified, I know that that's winds me up, makes me uncomfortable. Passion. I like to have passion. I love to have passion, and I know that when I don't have and not got passionate about something, then it's either not my thing, or quite often it's something where it's a time where I actually need a break. I need a holiday. I need to sort of get energy back, because I think sort of behind passion you need energy. So I know that sort of like if I fall out of love with something, it's not maybe there's something I've fallen out of. It's just literally I'm tired, I'm a bit burnt out, and I need to sort of sit back and rediscover my energy to give me the passion. Persistence. I'm incredibly persistent. I will at times cut my nose off to spite my face. Um, I will have really sort of days where I think, today just did not go well at all. It's not where I want to be. I'm maybe a bit fed up. I'm maybe a bit down. And yet the next morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, so how do I sort this out? How do I sort of make this better? How do I make this work? I very rarely sort of will give up on something. I'm incredibly persistent about something that I am passionate about, and I want to sort of like do so. Awareness. I've talked about awareness before, so I'm incredibly aware of how I drive my car, how I speak to people, how people treat me, how I treat others, how I walk down the street. Awareness is sometimes it is a gift, but it's also sometimes a curse, because sometimes I'm too aware and it's hard for me to switch off, but that's okay. Respect. I love respecting others, and I hope and I drive to get to respect off other people. I'm spirited. It may be something that's maybe aligned with passion, but I think sort of spirit. I like the sort of the whole world of spirit. I'm thinking and teaching about myself about kind of what the spirit does to the soul. So there's even in there's something sort of about spirit. So have a little look at that, write them down. And why, I'm going to say to you then, why are they important? I'm going to try and help sort of put some language to this. If you're in a job or a relationship, and let's say you've got the gift of compassion, I use this one sort of quite a lot because it's the easiest one that I think to explain. I could be very sort of compassionate, and I want to see compassion in the world. And when the adverts come on saying like give £5 a week, etc., I'm like, oh, I've got to go and sign up for that. I've got to do this. I want to maybe sort of like work in somewhere in Africa to sort of help, sort of like out there to do whatever it might be. I've just got this real sort of like need to be compassionate, and I need to sort of see that sort of through. Now, you might live with a partner that really doesn't appreciate you giving lots of money to charity. I'm not saying that all compassionate people do that or have to do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying a compassionate side of you might be, if it's a very high value of yours in a belief system, then, and it makes you feel the true you, then it makes you feel right about and comfortable. Or you don't like sort of seeing injustice and things like that. So you kind of sort of get irked with it. But if you've got a partner that says, I really fed up with you giving money to this charity and that charity and the dog's home and anything else that you can kind of think of, you will struggle in that relationship, because basically what they're doing is almost treading on your core value. And if you don't know what they are, you might be getting trodden on, getting irked and thinking, why do I feel frustrated? Why do I feel annoyed? Why do I feel a sense of this irk that I talk about? And it'll be digging there because it's probably that your core values are being tested by something or someone. Now, don't get confused in this. People don't have to have the same value system of you, and they don't. You don't have to be in a relationship with. So you don't have to be with somebody that's got the gift of compassion as well. Actually, quite often, we talk about sort of opposites attract and things like that, and I think that's really good. There's a yin and a yang, I think that's really good for us to sort of tussle with something else and someone else. But what I think is no good is somebody actually dissing your core value and standing on it. What I think sort of needs to happen is first and foremost is an acceptance of that's your gift, that's your value system, that's what you love doing, and I'm not going to sort of come across that. I'm not going to stand against that. Then that's good enough. As long as it's not being challenged too much and too often in a wrong way, then that's absolutely completely fine. What's wonderful then is if you are in a relationship where somebody actually then says, do you know what I love about you? I know that I'm not compassionate, let's say. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just saying I haven't got that. That's not my core value, and it isn't. It doesn't matter if I've not got that same gift. I'm not. What would be great is if somebody says, I love that about you. I love the fact that you're always helping people. I love the fact that, what would be great if your partner says, what would be really good for you is you take 2 weeks off per year and go to Africa and help with the kids. Do whatever that sort of may be. Wouldn't it be wonderful if somebody actually celebrates your gift of compassion? In a workplace, if you've got that gift of compassion and you work in a very authoritarian, not thinking, not caring company, and let's just say, just again for simpleness, you're a secretary in that business, or you work in that business in some way, and you're just thinking, this job's just not for me. I just don't like it. It's just not my calling. It's not where I'm supposed to be. It may be just that you're in the wrong environment. I've done posts on environment before. We've talked about it in sort of setting your right environment in talk 1, possibly talked a little bit on talk 2, is that your environment of where you're at is incredibly important for you to feel comfortable, nurtured, loved, and somewhere for you to grow. Somewhere where something is actually sort of shining a light on you in a really positive way. So look at your environment. Look at your home environment, your work environment, wherever your values. It can be even strangely enough, it could be even the country that you live in. Your country could have the same sort of values that you have. So, or a county. There's one. Maybe a street even. There's things where you can find that commonality, and it's basically, like I say, it's your environment. So think about where you're at in that. If you have got that sort of gift of compassion, and you then look for a company that is a giving company, a company that's got that compassion that's in their core values, let's say, then you're obviously going to get on sort of better. Then all of a sudden, the job that you thought you were not good at or in the wrong job, you could be like doing that thing and you're thinking, wow, this is amazing. This is perfect for me. So it's really important that you know that you're in the right relationships, you're having the right relationships, you're living true to yourself, you're not being irked by people treading on your values. You seek them. You seek, for me, people that like to be passionate about other things. I like to unify with those people that have a passion for a certain. I never particularly want to sort of do a job or do something that somebody else is doing. I just love to see the passion in them. I just really sort of feel like I connect to that. So because it's just part of my value system. So search those people out, but come alongside them. It doesn't mean you have to all have the same things, but please look for celebrating other people's values. Okay, so I hope that's really sort of helpful. It's a biggie. Again, the people that I talk to that have really got this, that know that, you know, trust is a real big value of theirs, and yet they're in a relationship that's just not trusting at all, and you're kind of thinking, I'm always questioning what they're doing. You're like, well, you've got to look at that environment. You've got to think, well, that's not where I'm supposed to be. If relaxation is incredibly valuable to you, then make sure that you're finding that place. So I think you've got it. I hope you've got it. I hope that you've understood sort of what I'm talking about there, and try and get them, like I say, intrinsically sort of part of you. The thing that's the thing that you stand on, that thing that, if you can imagine it, if it is your skeleton, it is your core, it's your core being. Then try and find those values and write them down. A tip here for you on getting to know them into your psyche would be, for certainly quite a long time, is to write them down in your journal for quite some time, so that they just become something that you can just, and then you know that if something's a little bit off, you think, well, okay, does it feel unified in this space? Have I lost my passion for this? You know, do I need to sort of do something else? So yeah, they're incredible, but you do need to know them word for word, and they need to, on that as well, is that if you're doing those things, and I talk about being in your joy, if you take out of your 6, if you try and find 2 of those things where you really excel at and live in, you'll find your joy. You'll be a much more happier, contented person if you know that you're in line with your values. And don't forget, that's why I keep trying to say, I keep trying to find, you know, this big wide world, and I'm trying to bring you in, and I'm trying to get you much more centered and much more in line with your true self, so you're going to your true North Star. Does that make sense? I hope that's really sort of, you know, I know that I repeat some of this stuff because it's, you know, I'm passionate about it. But I also know that it works, and I know that if you know your values and you know what you stand on, it'll be a lot more helpful. So then we're going to go on to back into your workbook. I want you to just look at there is a page on there which is sort of talking about sort of goals and desires. Now, I know when I've done the seminars and I've been in places and I mentioned the word goal, and for a lot of people, that's a real turn off. And I think it's because we've started to, you know, in the kind of like 80s and 90s, it was all about like goals and success and achievement, and I think it's got a connotation around the word goal, which is, I don't think it's helpful. I can see it in people's eyes quite often when I mention the word having a goal. It's like, there's maybe a sense of pressure on that people sort of don't really need at this present moment. So I would say that if we stick with the word goal for a second, what I would say is, like, well, you could have the goal of just literally, for some people, it would be getting up in the morning. You know, that's a goal. Goals don't have to be, and I think this is where it's gone wrong. It doesn't need to be. I'm not sure even if I like it really. And that's that. I don't think it's actually important. But if it's one of yours, and if I say something wrong, you know, bear with me. But you know, goals don't have to be, you know, I need a 4-bedroom house and a Ferrari. You know, that to me, they're you know, they don't in the end fulfill you. So I don't see anything wrong in them, as long as maybe, you know, if it's part of like your mastery and you're giving to somebody, and by the way, those things come on the back of something else, then fine. But I would say, it's like, you know, wouldn't it a goal to be, you know, be a loving mother, loving father, you know, a goal of being a great boss, a great goal of being a great work colleague. I think sort of that would be a better way to look at goals, rather than what I think the word comes with, this bias, this language that comes with it. So just take a step back on that sort of word goal and just think sort of like, actually, how could you make it mean something different to you? I've started to use the word sort of like what what do you desire over what goal have you got? I think sometimes that's a better way to sort of start. Is if you could if you could sort of do anything. So like I was talking to one of the guys in work, and she said, one of them would be a desire of hers would be to get a camper van and drive like Route 66 in America. I was like, I didn't know that about you. That was really, really cool. And then we sort of say, well, okay, so like, how can we then sort of, put that into a sort of form of plan, and it then brings back, the worth of what you do as a job. You can kind of start saying, well, whatever I do is going to sort of try and get me towards my goal and desires. What do you dream? What do you dream of? What life would you, if you could write any story, any life, what would you write out? I think it's really sort of like good to have something to aim for. And the reason I say that is that I've mentioned it before, is that I'm 100%, and I know if you're feeling low at the moment, this can be it can be a little bit in your face, and I understand that, and I get that, but please also try and bear with me and try and understand that I might know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying I do, but I'm just saying I might know what I'm talking about. And that would be when you have something that you're striving towards. The world, I think, likes movement. And I think then it gives you purpose, which we've talked about in the last talk. I think with purpose comes meaning. I think with meaning comes joy. With joy comes happiness. With all that comes contentment. And I think it staves off moving backwards, which I would say would be moving towards depression, heartache, hopelessness. So this is why I talk about this. It's not because I'm a motivational speaker. It's because I want you to have a life that's worth living, a one that, let's say, serves others, that has purpose and meaning. So, with all those sort of, with all those dreams and days, you can say, well, what purpose and meaning does it mean to drive down Route 66? Well, one, it'd be very cathartic to that person, but two, you might want to take somebody with you. Wouldn't that be cool? Working towards that goal that you could then give to somebody else. They could drive alongside you, looking at the things that you're going to, the shared experience. I mean, how ace is that? A goal of being a fantastic mother, wife. Somebody else gets to be, your child, your husband. I love it when somebody actually takes the time to sort of make a hot drink for me, right? They take care in thinking, do I like it strong, weak, boiling, how much sugar do you like in it, if any, and when somebody does that for you, that a goal of making your husband, wife, child, work colleague, happy, a goal of doing that could be to make them a really nice drink. Especially when you know that somebody's been working and they've missed their lunches, or they've had a hard day or something, and you make the effort to make them what might seem the smallest thing as a drink, and you put passion and love into that by getting it right for the person that you love. What a great goal, what a great desire to have. So don't get confused on the monetary value thing of goals. Just think about it, I would say, more of a cathartic, something that kind of makes you feel and others feel sort of like healthier and better, and you're adding something to somebody's life. So the questions in there's goal setting. They talk about sort of like your SMART goals. So they're supposed to be specific, measurable. So that's what the SMART an acronym sort of stands for: achievable, realistic, and time bound. I would say sort of on the achievable and realistic, I do question those a little bit, because I'm a bit of a dreamer, and your dreams don't always seem very achievable, and they don't always seem very realistic. But I think if you start dragging them back, you can make what you do on a daily basis specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So I hope you get what I mean by that. So don't constrain about it. These are just sort of like again, a tick box exercise. If you're setting yourself some goals, so you're working towards your life purpose, so you're giving yourself sort of meaning. So by this you're being mindful. This is all ACE, guys. This is about sort of getting you to be the real you. I mean, how wonderful will that? So, what is your goal? State in positive terms, and how will you know when you've reached it? So what will you see, notice and feel in yourself and others? So when will you know? You'll know, I think, because if it's obviously a purchase, you'll have seen it. If it's an experience, you'll be living it. And how would you feel? Well, it's going to make you hopefully feel fulfilled and joyous. And how do other people feel? Like I say, if you're on that road of Route 66 and you'll manage to get on that as well, then you'll get to know how that feel. When, where, and with whom do you want it? There's another one with whom do you not want it with? You might need to look at your environment and your work and your relationships and go, well, actually, this is not on my life plan. I need to sort of change things around. So whom do you want it with and whom do you not want it with? Really important. What resources do you need? That's fairly often. How will obtain it improve your life? How will it affect other things? So sometimes when you really want something, it might be to the detriment of others. So you need to sort of know if it's a goal worth pursuing because of those questions. And then things like, do you want any other outcome in any other situation? I hope that's sort of starting to make some sense. I hope that means that you're not as fearful about sort of setting goals. I would start quite often. I would prefer to use the word, like I say, sort of a desire and a dream. I think for me, it's a better language to use. So have a little sort of think about those and think about why you should set them. I think let's say it gives you purpose and meaning. So I don't think it's something that we want to sort of shy away from too quickly. They can be really, really small. So I'm just sort of quickly going through the workbook because I've gone past something that I know that I wanted to say. So So filling that up, coming to an end of that. So what I wanted to add then is to then, what would it? How do you put all of this together and start sort of putting a life plan together? If you need some things to sort of try and evoke some sort of things and know what desires maybe that you might have and where you want to go and putting some form of life plan together. What I found is helpful is asking people what did they want to be when they were like sort of 5, 6 sort of thing. Did that sort of continue to sort of like 10, or did it change into something else? Did that sort of continue into sort of like being 16? Did it something that you followed? Is it something that you do now? I think it just helps sort of make you understand, what makes you tick, what makes you come alive. So I'm not saying that I thought I was going to be, in a sense, a coach sort of like in my later years, but I know that sort of the things that I wanted to do were usually to sort of helping something else sort of grow, and in the end, it's been people, which is pretty cool. So I'm kind of happy with that sort of side of stuff. So ask those questions, and then this is a bit of a difficult one to sort of talk through. So I have to language this extremely well. That how would you like to be remembered? I think your starting point and your ending point. What we're talking about is something which I'll talk about in a second, which is we're living in the gap. So I think it's important to kind of know where you want this to kind of finish and how you want to be remembered, because it's important that you're actually on track. So again, if you want to be at your own funeral and people saying things like, well, they were trustworthy, I could always depend on them. They were a great father, they were a great husband, they were just sort of, they always had time for me. I don't know what it is. You will know what those things are. So definitely have a little sort of think about kind of like how it is that you want to be remembered. You know, you stood at your own funeral and people are talking about you. What do you want them to say about you? What identity about you did you form, and did you achieve what you set out in life to do? I think it's important to check that. It basically is just like a little life checker. Now, when I talk about sort of living life within the gap, you, it's the date of birth and the end date. So, I'm sorry to sort of say this, but it's easy to explain it like this. But, on a tombstone or anything else, you kind of go, they were born in and they died then, and then there's a dash, and we call it the gap. It's like, you're on this journey. Are you on track? And are you? Because it's a small thing, isn't it? It's very, very tiny. That it is that little gap that's in between. Are you on track? Are you in line with all of those? And for me, what we've been talking about through all of these talks is to how do you do that bit in the middle well, so that you don't get to sort of the end of this and think, I missed out on this and I missed out on that and I didn't achieve that and I'm bitter about how this is all sort of panned out. So please have a little look at that and sort of think about where you want it to start from and how you want it to end, and that I think will help you with your goals, with basically setting a life plan. The social self and essential self helps you with this as well. It's kind of like it'll just show you in areas where you might not be truly in line with this life plan. You might have let some things slip. You might have a bad belief system about certain areas of this. So everything, all the content in here is just to help you do your life in the most authentic way, so people get to enjoy you and they love being around you. And at the end of this, it's got your plan, and it says things like, how do you start your day? Have your life purpose down, have your core values, have some daily goals. So it says there, read, exercise, have some focus on where you put your focus is where you get your results. So start doing life intentionally. I've said this before, if you are not doing life intentionally, then the world will definitely mold you. So you will pan out getting somewhere that you had no intention to go to, but you didn't write down your intentions. And on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, you were nowhere at times near your intention of where you wanted to be. So get intentional, get waking up and helping you get intentional. This is not rubbish stuff. This is get meditating, get imagining, get search for gratitude, get journaling. Journaling just gives you, it really just keeps you back on, it knocks you back on track. It's important. Get your values intrinsic into you. So then you can sort of start to be sort of like, all I think you're intended to be. Your life is of value. The world needs the real you. And that's pretty much all I can say. I've got, let's say, we've got tons of material. I can help you with resources. There's books. This is, let's say, it's a journey. It's not a destination. I think if some of this is kind of like, whoa, wow, now this is making this too much, then don't forget about your 1% increments. You tackle things with really small sort of notches. Like I've said before, as an example, I used to have 2 sugars in drinks, and now I'm down to sort of around about just above a half. And it was literally just by sort of taking a bit off. You can go cold turkey. I've got nothing against that. It actually is good for for your system, for your nervous system to wake up. I think it needs jolts. There's a friend of ours at the moment. I've just realised that she's doing it on a daily basis. I think it's daily, but jumping into the sea. Sue, if you are listening to this, I admire you so much, and I am going to hopefully come along to that one day if you're still doing them. What Wim Hof talks about, so like, going into the cold, it's a great way to get your immune system really activated. It's a great way to help towards mental illness. Honestly, just shaking and waking you up is incredibly important. But what I don't want you to do is be shaken up by something that's crap that's happened to you. And crap is going to happen to you at some point, but I want you to be strong enough to be able to handle it. I want you to be strong enough to come out the other side, a different person if that's what it needs. What I don't want and what I can't, what just breaks my heart is if something sort of bad happens to you and it knocks you so far off track that you end up being in a really, really bad place. It's so sad for me when I come alongside people that are in that place. It's difficult for me to hear the language around like there's no purpose to me. I'm rubbish at relationships. All of that stuff. I can't find a job. I'm useless. I'm worthless. I don't like anything like that. So what I'm trying to do is to try and get you into all that you can be, so that when you look at the words that we said in the other talk, where you've got positive and negative words, I want you to have a belief system that really is serving you, a soul that's healthy, a heart that's just open and giving and loving and an acceptance of being loved. That's my mission. That's my journey. So please again, this is local. It's something that I really am desperately about building community, building a community that is one of love and service. Yeah. I hope you get it. I hope you want to come on board. I hope you want to share it. Please do the things that are like liking stuff on Facebook. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's important for me. It won't get as a monetary sort of thing. It's not about that. It's just about kind of like, what it's like. If the more people have subscribed, the more people that want to get on board. It's all about that sort of stuff. If it's liked a lot, then, I'll like it. Do you know what I mean? But it's just, I know those things, it's immaterial in one sense, but, if it's a way of just dragging somebody else into this community, then, then it's important. It might be just a tick and a subscribe, but, it might just change somebody else's life by the fact that they think, well, that might be worth a look. I hope that makes sense. I hope you're on board. I hope you're enjoying it. I know it's tough. Go back to talk 1, 2, 3, and keep doing them. Get in touch. My mobile number is on my Facebook, on the Real You Facebook page. All details are there. As we build this in months going forward, there'll be more resources out there. So let's do it. I hope that we don't feel that we've got any excuses to not do this together. Don't forget that one of my core values is unity. So, all right, I'll stop there. If you have listened to this and you've listened to all 4, I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. If you haven't and you're on Talk 4, go and look at the others, please. And yeah, just lots of love, guys. Yeah, you take care. Be good.